All right, we're live. Hello, everybody. All right, we're live with Dr. Mark Williams, who is an ear, nose, and throat physician. And I'm not going to butcher his bio. I'm going to let him do that. Let me first tell you guys the purpose of us coming on tonight. We came on tonight to talk about what's happening this coming Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Central. I make a point to say that time because he's from Nashville, Tennessee, an hour behind where I am in Maryland. Um, it's a webinar on vocal care. And as a singer and vocal coach, I am always reminded when I sing, when I deal with various singers, how important it is to have vocal health, take care of a voice. And I'm adamant about telling the singers concerning maintenance and then also saying that I'm not a doctor. I just know certain things about the voice, but I wanted to bring a doctor on the platform and have them ask questions, and we'll talk more about that. But Mark, tell the people who you are and, just give an intro to you.
Well, I'm just a somebody trying to tell everybody about somebody who can. No, I'm just kidding. I am, as you mentioned, I'm a board certified otolaryngologist. That is commonly referred to as a ear, nose, and throat surgeon, head, neck surgeon. So I'm housed here in Nashville, Tennessee, where I also founded the Voice Care Center of Nashville. And this is where we treat patients, not only just with general ear, nose, and throat problems, but also people who will have specifically voice problems. And so we have a special interest for people who are gospel and Christian music singers, but we treat anyone who has a voice problem, not just singers, but educators, radio personalities, television personalities, whoever it is that uses their voice, whether professionally, recreationally, or even just casually. We help you to restore your voice and maintain it that way.
Absolutely. That's great. Really quick, before we get into the meat of vocal care, can you talk about your experience as an artist as well?
Well, I am, as you mentioned, a gospel recording artist, and I have released several different nationally released projects. My first one was entitled Everything, and that was released back in 2011. And then I released a new project entitled, my most recent project was entitled When a Man Worships. And so I sing what I call smooth praise.
Yeah,
sort of
that's good.
jazz.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a great
Yeah.
description.
Yeah, smooth jazz with the gospel message. And so I'm really excited about being able to not only just treat people, but I'm thankful to God that He's allowed me to merge music, medicine, and ministry.
Mm-hmm.
That When a Man Worships, I actually recorded, after I recorded that, a friend of mine suggested that I should write the book. And thanks to Corona, we actually got together and we wrote the book When a Man Worships, which was released in June this year. So I'm excited about that as well.
That's awesome. Later on, I want you to say that again, and how the audience can get a hold of that and any other of your products. So let's jump right into it.
Mhm.
Vocal care, whatever you're willing to give, because of course we don't want to give everything. We want people to come into I knew I would get a smile from that. So the webinar is going to cover a lot concerning vocal care. One of the biggest things that I believe will be a plus is that you're right there.
Mhm.
So when the question and answer segment comes, they can ask their specific questions of their specific individual needs. But go ahead, let's just jump in there. What do you plan to share Saturday?
Well, I have a fundamental belief that when the purpose, the value, and the proper use of a thing is not known or appreciated, abuse is inevitable. And I think that applies so much so to the use of the voice as well. I especially like talking to Christian audiences and using that from using my Christian background. and a spiritual understanding of what the voice is, because that can even apply to people who don't use their voice professionally. So those people who are interested in even just learning more about the voice and the power of the voice, they can tune in as well, even though you're not a singer. So coming this Saturday, what I'm hoping to discuss is, first of all, what is the voice? How does the voice function? What is the purpose of the voice? And what are some of the things that we do to help maintain the voice? There's a lot of things that we find that people do thinking that they're helping the voice that are actually harmful to the voice. And we hope to dispel some of those myths and rumors about that as well. And then finally, I'd like to be able to share some examples of what the vocal cords look like, and both when they're healthy and when they're damaged. There are a lot of disease processes that will impact the voice and impact the function of the voice or quality of the voice. We hope to be able to share some of that. So people who have asthma, allergies, lung disease, things of that nature, sinus disease, how all of these things come together to impact the voice. And I'm happy to give, to the extent possible and reasonable, some type of medical advice, generically, of course, because I can't give you advice. I can't give you advice without thoroughly evaluating you. But we hope to give some medical advice about how to really maintain this instrument.
Excellent. One of the first things that comes to mind about misuse is something that's very popular. So I'll say this. The audience that will have a majority of the audience that will have access to this live, as well as really the majority of the audience that I have currently, is Christian and gospel artists. And of course, you said that you specialize in that, being that you're one yourself, and just have much experience with dealing with various gospel and Christian artists. In gospel music, particularly traditional, some urban contemporary, the growl that's used, and personally, I believe that using a manipulated vocal fry will do the same effect as far as the ear, what the audience hears, but often singers strain their voice, and then it starts to show in their speaking voice. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, in gospel music, that's one of the things we call the squall as well. That squall can be very injurious to the voice, especially if it's not done properly. I actually did some research on what produces that sound in squall. And just preliminarily, one of the things that we found was that people have various different techniques for doing that. Of course, if you are vibrating the vocal folds under close tension or extreme tension, that itself will cause some voice injury. But then we saw some other images where people are using what we call supraglottic structures, which mean not the true vocal folds, but some of the structures that are above the level of the vocal folds, and set that into vibration. And when they do that, that can actually produce that same type of squall, the same energy, the same emotion that's behind it, without causing injury to the vocal folds. That's the theory that we're pursuing. The challenge is that not many people know how to teach that technique, and even most of the people who actually use it basically have just learned to do it from listening to people and experimentation. And sometimes, as I said, that can be harmful. And other times people do it their entire careers and never have a problem. You just don't want to be the one that experiments with it and causes some irreparable damage to your vocal folds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
I watched a seminar on YouTube, so I think I know a little bit. No, I'm just kidding.
That's funny. How many years have you been in medicine?
That, before they have their surgery, I have to assure them that I watched how to do it on YouTube, and that makes them feel so much better.
YouTube University.
Learn so much from YouTube.
Refresh us again on how many years you've been in medicine.
Oh, Jesus. In medicine, that's a good question. Because I'll tell you what, when I say in medicine, I said that's a long time, because I thought I did my medical doctorate, and then I also got a PhD in pharmacology and cell biophysics. So I did a combined MD PhD program. And that alone was 8 years of training. Then afterwards, 5 years of residency training in otolaryngology, head and neck surgery. Then I moved down to Nashville, Tennessee in 2007 to open my own practice. And so I've been practicing physician here, practicing surgeon for the past 13 years now. So total of 18 years actually doing surgery, but 13 years in my practice.
Excellent. So a lot of experience.
That's one of the things I wanted to reiterate.
No. So guys, I gotta tell you, when Mark and I speak, this is always what happens between laughter and some really serious, sometimes prophetic moments. He's definitely a man of God. If you go to the That's So Music playlist on Apple Music and Spotify, you will hear, I believe I have on there, When a Man Worships, the actual song. But you will hear Dr. Mark Williams. I like the way you said smooth praise. I never thought of that. I was trying to explain to someone how you sound, your style. And I kind of said a mix of a little bit of a similar timbre to the late Luther, a little mixed. I just couldn't. I was trying. Because you really have a great, unique sound. It's a rich. What do you consider, like a baritone?
Basically. Yeah,
baritone voice.
That's the reason why I have to write my own music, because gospel music, they don't have a whole lot of parts for
tenors.
that. Exactly. Yeah.
You got the Todd Delaney's and Jonathan McReynolds. Lord Jesus, it's just way up there.
The last church that I attended and led worship at, they always wanted me to sing an Israel Houghton song, and I'm like, "Do you realize that?" And I can't do that kind of stuff. So,
and then there are some songs to take it down. It's not the same.
Loses the energy. Yeah. So if you write the song, however, in a baritone voice or a second tenor voice, then that's the reason why I write my own songs. So.
Right. There is an advantage to that. Okay. What else do I want to talk about tonight? You answer so quickly. I was expecting you to be more.
I don't want to give it all away.
I know. And it just speaks to your humility, because you have some that are as educated as you, or even less, and you have to use a dictionary to hear them, and just these long words and taking forever to say the same thing. That's not Mark at all, as you can see, guys. So let me see how many people are on. We don't have a large audience at the moment. Let me see if there are any comments. Okay. All right, guys. Down at the bottom of the screen, you see the site to register. And let me talk about the cost. So there are two options. You have webinar only, which is $27, which is a steal to get access to such knowledge as Dr. Mark. But I wanted to put it at a price that was not crazy, but not too cheap either. Not cheap at all. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So the webinar, right? So the webinar only is $27, and with the DVD is $57. Let's segue from that. Talk to us about your DVD, understanding your voice, your instrument.
I'll tell you how that actually started. I teach a class at the Gospel Music Workshop of America, Understanding Your Voice, Your Instrument. And in fact, the first time I went to a GMWA convention was in 2011. I was actually promoting my first CD, but I decided that I would have a table there talking about the Voice Care Center of Nashville.
Nice.
And I had pictures of vocal folds that were set to vibration for what we use as video stroboscopy. Those people who may have had that study done before, it shows us how the vocal folds vibrate. And people would come to my table. I think they were attracted there by the appearance of vocal folds because they've never seen them. Exactly. And some of them were intrigued. Others were a little appalled because they didn't realize what they were. I had one guy walk past before with his 15-year-old or so teenage son and grab him along like, this is a Christian event. Dude, these are Christian vocal folds. But I've learned after that to put the label on to describe that these are vocal folds. Nobody else confuse it with any other body part.
Yeah.
But people would come by the table, and I had a lot of people interested, and I thought for sure that I could interest them in my music CD, and they'd be like, yeah, the music, whatever. But what's that? And it was they were interested or intrigued by the vocal folds, and it occurred to me at that moment. They said, "Well, do you have that on the DVD or anything?" And the thought said, "Wow, I guess I don't." I did some research and found out that there are no DVDs on the market that really address that, other than ones that were from maybe 1970s, in the 1970s. Obviously, this is before HD or anything. So these are very low definition DVDs and VCRs, basically, or what do they call it? VC videotape or whatever the thing is called. You remember the old, we used to have to put a rectangular piece into a VCR. And so I actually
almost forgot. Sorry.
I can't remember what they were called. I know the machine is called a VCR, but videotape. And so we actually got together and we put together this 62-minute DVD that really talks about what the voice is, how it functions. I'll probably show some clips from that also in the video, just so that people can have an idea of what they're going to get on this DVD. But we actually put it in very practical terms, talking about how the voice functions. And we use different analogies. One in particular, I have a trumpetist coming in. And on the DVD, he explains how sound is made by vibration. At least with a trumpet, it's a vibration of the lips. And the same thing happens with the vocal folds. It's just created by the vibration of two surfaces next to each other. And then once you take that mouthpiece and you hook it to a trumpet, it then changes the entire sound of it, because the trumpet becomes a resonating chamber. And we use that to explain to people how the voice works, from creation of the sound and modulation of that sound by the resonating chambers in our bodies. And we also, like I said, show some examples of what normal and diseased vocal folds look like. And then I'm really excited because at the end of the DVD, toward the end of third half of it, or third of it, we actually talked to industry professionals, some voice coaches, some voice instructors, music, speech pathologists, and music producers, and each one of them share from their relative areas of expertise about the importance of caring for the voice. They give a couple tips. Of course, they don't let it all out in the DVD, because you can't get everything in a 62-minute video. But I call it a 62-minute consultation with the doctor, and you can't get that this inexpensive any other place. So
exactly.
I encourage all of your viewers who are signing up for the webinar to also sign up to get the DVD, because it is a very important tool to have in your library. I encourage anybody who's about to start getting voice instruction from any coach to first learn what the instrument is and how the instrument functions properly, and what happens when you don't handle it properly. So I think that's probably lesson number one for a lot of people who are interested in getting voice education.
Yeah. One of the things that I use, sorry, this is slipping and sliding. One of the things that I use to really hone in on how vulnerable the instrument is video or diagrams. And I remember the first time I saw the vocal instrument, I almost didn't want to talk. I was like, "Hi, how are you?" I started whispering. I will say this: I did learn how to properly use my voice. Not long after that, I began to not use such an attack in speaking. In fact, I speak like this all the time. A friend of mine said to me the other day, I was actually in the studio, and they're like, "Yo, do you always talk like that? Do you ever yell?" I'm like, I try not to. Try to use the voice very, just take care of it. It's an instrument, just like a trombone player carries their instrument in a case, takes care of it,
Mhm.
polishes it, doesn't let anybody banging around. It's an instrument. It's a muscle. Um, you got to take care of it. It's
Yeah.
very important
So you talk like you're on a podcast all the time.
all the time.
All the time. Talking like you're on a podcast. I like it though. It's good. I have to learn that
Thank
myself.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Speaking of podcasts, I'm gonna throw a plug out there. There will be a podcast in the That's So Music brand coming very soon before the year is out. So, and I actually hope to bring Dr. Williams in on that. I plan to. I won't even say hope. I plan to. I already told him this is one of many.
Yeah.
Saturday is one of many. So we're getting to the end of this. Any closing remarks about the voice and how much they really should register and get in on this?
Well, I'm glad that you do this, and one of the reasons why I'm glad is because when you assemble a voice care team, it involves a variety of people with different areas of expertise. And I think when one person starts to outstep, including myself, because there are certain things obviously that you're going to teach that are in your domain that I wouldn't dare think about teaching. And people think that just because I'm a medical doctor and I'm a voice doctor that I know all of these things. No, there's a whole field of study
Right.
that under vocal pedagogy that I
Yeah.
haven't had. And
Yeah.
so I'm sorry to disappoint some people because there are some things that I just don't speak on because one thing we learned in our medical school training is that bad information is worse than no information at all.
Wow.
And,
That's true.
people perish because of lack of knowledge,
That's right.
but they also perish because of the lack of the right knowledge. I
Yeah.
first came to Nashville and there was an otolaryngologist who had some pretty unorthodox or unique, maybe ahead of his time techniques in education. And I heard of him before I even came. Most of the otolaryngologists around in the area were like, this guy, oh gosh, he's kind of interesting. And but for some reason or another, he had garnered a lot of favor with in the gospel music community. And the things that he was teaching was not founded by science. He might very well, 30 years from now, we may find out, wow, he was right all along.
Wow.
But based on the knowledge that we have today, and then 10 years ago or 12 years ago, he was teaching stuff that I think was bad knowledge. And we see people who are eager and thirsty for knowledge about how to care for the voice. And so they soak up that information. And then if it's coming from a trusted source, it's so hard to redirect that information. So you have to sometimes tread very lightly on the information that was given to someone else. I went to the seminar and I'll just share this. He said, I was in the congregation or in the audience, and he said, all hoarseness can be gotten rid of by holding your arms out like this, turning your head to the side and saying, hey, hey, hey. And when he said that, oh my gosh, my jaw dropped. And not just in amazement that he's actually promulgating some of this information, but as I looked around the room, I saw so many people intently writing and taking notes. And I looked over to my friend, I said, don't write that down.
Right.
And I said, I'll tell you later, but don't write that down. He finished his seminar early, and which almost never happened. And so the organizer of the event said, well, we never finish early. And at that moment, I asked him, I said, well, do you mind if I introduce myself? And he said, sure, come on up, introduce me. He knew who I was and knew that I was a voice doctor as well. And I still carefully, I had to introduce myself and not tread on some of the information that he shared and just dismiss it as hogwash. Even though that's what I would have wanted to do, but I had to say, we have different techniques and different approaches. Because I also have a PhD, I'm a scientist. most of the recommendations that I offer, I believe should be based in science. And, we're talking a whole lot about what's based in science these days. And now there's a whole lot of distrust of science. But in any case, with my training, I explained that, there may be multiple different techniques and different methods for doing things. But before I make a recommendation to you, it's going to be founded in some valid science. And and it will not be outside the realm of what my expertise is. I am very cautious about making sure that we surround ourselves and provide people with various levels of expertise to speak on the different aspects of voice care. So I thank you for inviting me to be able to share the area or the realm of my expertise. And I think when you share also with yours, the combination of those things really help us to develop an understanding and a more complete and more accurate, healthy understanding of the voice and how it works.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could have said no. I mean, you had that option.
I thought about it. No,
you thought about it? I appreciate it.
Of course, I was going to say yes to you. You're a dear friend. So.
Thank you. Thank you. That is it, guys, for the night. I will see you Saturday. If you have not registered, go to www.SolenaOlivia.com. It's down at the bottom in the marquee. Is this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Central. And we're going to talk about the things that we talked about tonight and more. You don't want to miss it. And as I said before, one of the major benefits of Saturday is that you'll have direct access to him inside of using Zoom. You'll have direct access to him in this webinar to ask questions. And I will tell you this, those who register will actually have a free consultation with me, 30 minutes, after the registration, after the webinar, to cover some of the things that were the questions that come from it. Sometimes people don't know what they need until they hear it. And having the consultation after this, I believe, will kind of close some things in for them. And I'll also insist that they reach out to you. Quick question for you. I'm kind of putting you on the spot. Is there, do you do tele visits, and how exactly does that work? Much of my audience is in my area, not in the Nashville area. So.
Yes. Unfortunately, with ENT, it's very difficult to do televisits.
I can imagine.
Yes. I can listen to your voice and hear the clarity of it and make some presumptions about what I might see, but there's no substitute for laying eyes on the vocal folds. There's no substitute for putting an otoscope in the ear and really looking at what the ear is showing. Okay. Same thing with the nose and the throat. So televisits are incredibly difficult for my field, unless you have the instruments on the other end in order to allow us to be able to do that.
That makes sense. Is there a network that you're a part of that you could refer?
There are usually, in most larger cities, there's a medical college. And medical colleges, that they have a department of otolaryngology. Many of the academic institutions will have a division of their otolaryngology department that specializes in voice and professional voice. Okay. If you are a professional voice user, my suggestion is to go to one of those at an institution close by and close by to your hometown, rather than just seeing a general ENT, because there are certain diagnostic tools that are used by one who specializes in voice that is not typically used by the general otolaryngologist, and particularly video stroboscopy. Most ENTs will have a flexible laryngoscope where we put the scope through your nose and take a look at the vocal cords that way. But you can only get so much information from that scope. And for professional voice users, you really need to have a video stroboscopy. We'll talk more about that and what it is, how it's done on Saturday. Tune in.
Excellent. Love it. Love the plug. Excellent. All right, guys, that's it for tonight.
Don't forget
Again,
about my
register.
book as well.
Right, right.
Mm.
Also, real quick before we go, talk about the project itself, the combination, the CD and the book.
Oh yeah. So the CD again is entitled When a Man Worships. It is a compilation of smooth praise, Will Downing
I
like, and
really like that. I'm
yeah.
so-
It's sort of like if you like Will Downing, if you like Luther, there's that kind of music into it as well. A variety of different music though, but it's called When a Man Worships. The book is actually When a Man Worships too. Now I want to encourage you that this is not just for women, and it's not what you expect worship to be as well, or what we don't really define and constrain worship towards singing. And to those people who use their voice, you'll find that this book has broad applicability to a variety of people, and very little of it is actually dedicated toward singing and toward music, if any of it is dedicated toward that, because that's not what worship is. Those may
Right,
be expressions of worship, but that's not what worship is. And I don't want people to have been that mindset. But every chapter that's in the book every song on the CD is represented by a chapter in the book. And so I recommend that people get both of them. You can learn more about my music, my ministry, and medicine by visiting my website, drmarkwill.com, drmarkwill.com. I do have a new CD too, a new single out. Just released it last week. It's entitled I Can't Breathe. So look
that's
that
right.
yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Look that up on YouTube as well. And you can see at the bottom of the screen, my website is there, drmarkwill.com, and search on YouTube for Dr. Mark Williams. I Can't Breathe. That's my new CD there. My new single, I'm sorry.
Awesome.
They're getting a
Excellent.
little politically active, socially active, let me say it that way.
Yeah. That is a
Because
better word.
this is not a political issue, it's a social matter. So let your voice be heard.
A little bit of good trouble.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So thank you again, Dr. Williams, and everybody register tonight. Go ahead and register. Registrations are coming in fairly quickly. Just got one about an hour before we started. So you want to definitely get your spot. It is virtual, so there are more seats than physically at a small room, but you don't want to miss it. And you don't want to wait too late. All right. www.SolenaOlivia.com to register. And that's it. Have a wonderful night. Thank you
So,
again, Dr. Williams.
thank
And I
you.
will see
Looking
you
forward
guys
to seeing
Saturday.
you.
All
Yes.
righty. Me as well. Good night.